The InfraPioneer podcast, infrastructure construction, from the perspective of BIM specialists and on-site engineers.
Hi everybody, my name is Jenna Ikonen. I work as a BIM expert in Kreate, a Finnish contractor company within the field of infrastructure.
Great. How did you get in touch with the BIM? Like, what was your first experiences with it?
I used to work for a consulting company for construction management in infrastructure, and we did some quite big projects for the city of Helsinki. And in those projects, we started utilizing BIM, and I would work in the information management part of the project, and that's how I got involved with BIM, and I got interested in also the information management part of it.
Cool. So, hey, also, I'm Jero, also working in the actually same company as Jenna. And well, I don't have the civil engineering background, but when I first got as a sales job, selling one product on infra construction, I got in touch with the actually BIM first before 2D designs, and I started understanding the BIM and seeing how it functions. And then when I realized that the 2D is more stronger, or well, people are more habitable with it, it was such a struggle to find a way when you have learned that this is the way to do, and then back to the 2D. But though it's always it fascinates me because I think it's the like for construction industry, it's like the first step to digitalization, automation, and all this IoT and everything kind of stuff. So it's really
It's a really old-fashioned industry, and now everybody's taking in digitalization. It's a huge leap and a big step, and it's interesting to see how it will evolve.
yeah, true. By the way, in the construction consulting company, what kind of BIM you were like designing 3D models or visualization models, or how did you start it with?
Well, our company would do some part of the design there, but we were also helping the owner in the project management. And one of the key parts of the project management was the information management and the whole system. So it was pretty much like all the files, all the design things, and so the model or the joint model of all design parties was part of the whole system management.
How did you then get more towards the construction, like machine guidance systems and surveyors modelings and such?
Good question. Then what I decided to do was take a lead towards software, and I would work for a software slash hardware company for a bit over a year, and we would do consulting for contractors, and that's where I saw how interesting machine guidance is and machine control, and became more and more interested of working for a contractor. And then I contacted Kreate through a friend, and we discussed it. And I told them about my background and my interests, and I'm also a land surveyor by background, so that's how I got involved, and now I'm here.
Yeah, and I think it's really fascinating, like when you in the BIM and how it first is perceived as a visualization, but when you go to the like construction sites and you really see that the same models that you watch on your 3D viewer and see that okay, here goes roads and there's our lakes and so on, then the machine guidance is exactly doing the same work. And then when you see surveyors using those to get all the measurements and surveying actions, and finally then the foremen also utilizing it. It's quite exciting to see, because I think it's like, I don't think there's no other industry that uses so much this kind of like 3D or virtual features with the real world. Like, there are AR technologies and VR technologies, but I think this is like closest that there's other industries are. And I think it's really interesting because like, even though we talk a lot about modeling and the information management and automations and all these things, I find it really cool that it's we are trying to find a way to make it, well, to have the full value out of it, because it's extra cost to make from those 2D lines to the 3D and checking it all, but it's taking steps, and I think it's really cool. Like, I'm more than excited that I found the infrastructure industry to be in.
Yeah, and it's good that we have people like you coming from different backgrounds, because it's a very big leap from just plain construction and PDFs and 2D into the 3D and digitalization world. So that's why we need people who understand both worlds and can work as a translators. And that's how I see my role as a translator, trying to like bring together both worlds.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. That like, when you meet people who have been in the industry for a very, very long time, like from the student, they have been always on the construction industry, and then when you talk with them about BIM and how to utilize it, it feels like their imaginary is limited to that. Okay, we have papers, we need to check these facts, and we need to then go to the site and do these things, and then complete and then deliver the files. And then when you think about the BIM and possibility of using softwares and automations, it's like only your imagination is at the limit at what you can really do there. Like, you can really even remove some of the resources, but also like possibility of future outsourcing some roles, or then automating it, making it even more faster or efficient to build the structures that you are building. And I think that's the weird thing that I find on the sites every day, that it's like a two worlds. And I think the BIM is the easiest way that when we like the engine of development of processes and how to complete the projects is that when you get them understanding how to utilize BIM, and they know they have their smartphones and they have their other electronic devices, then they know that, okay, we are already in the digital era, and then they can also think about apps. And so, like, we can expand the imagination level, that they don't anymore think it as straightforward as it was before, but now it's like, what else can we make it easier or accessible or more visual that will help X, Y, Z.
Yeah, good point.
By the way, do you have any experiences on then when you were at the Helsinki municipality about the like property management, or I don't know what's the English name for paikkatieto, geospatial information.
GIS.
GIS, yeah. Like how the BIM is there at the moment.
Well, I don't have any recent information, but I know that city of Helsinki is a very progressive city, and they have a lot of data to manage, and they have taken it into their heart to make a good system to manage all the data, because there is vast amounts of data, but they also want to contribute to smarter environments and smart buildings and property management. So I think they have ideas, at least, or one system where they manage everything. But yeah.
Yeah, it's very curious for me. Like, well, there has been the saying big bang boom, like changes on the design is cost $1 and on the construction $10 and on the maintenance $100. And like thinking this, well, the whole life cycle, it's just huge amount of information, especially like big city like Helsinki. It's so many small different groups that need different data, and then inserting all this data or gathering them somewhere. It's huge work.
Yeah.
And that's why like the smart environment is kind of like, I don't have so much experience is what smart environments have, but that's why I was curious like how things are there.
Are you talking about like the data management environment or the physical environment?
Yeah, like how they are, well, in the ideal level, how they are trying to utilize the data on the BIM models or in the itself to make those smart environments.
Well, at least I know that they have rajapinta
Interface.
For the public server, or like if you want to find out about city of Helsinki, like as a resident or as an outsider or a business person, whatever, there are interfaces to get more information, to find out and see things, find out things that are not secret in some way.
Yeah, like public information.
Yeah, but one really interesting thing is also like the Internet of Things and how the city of Helsinki is like very progressive in that sense that I know that they have tried out these like smart cities, things that utilize Internet of Things, and there's Kalasatama Fiksu Kaupunki. We should talk about that sometime and find out.
That would be really cool idea to understand.
Yeah, and like Internet of Things, like how that affects like or what sort of things can you get out of there, and But I guess we're a bit outside of like infrastructure and construction now, but it's like when you talk about BIM, it's such a vast thing.
Yeah, it's
and there's like so many elements, so many different standards, so many different like construction species. There's earthworks, and then there's hard concrete bridges and everything, and all of them have like different functionalities and standards and requirements. So like it's a really vast thing to understand and talk about.
Yeah, that's I think I don't know who was the guy who in the Bauma, one of the speakers there was saying that with the BIM, just take one piece at a time. Like for example, you have let's start with BIM, and you are planning out your next infrastructure project, and then you are not trying to make every idea what you have about BIM to test them, that you just like focus on, okay, first let's try with the machine guidance. And we make some very dumb models that just have the geometric, and then put it and see what happens. And then we are improving more and more, and then also like training and support. It becomes such a huge effort to educate people. So you cannot go too fast with each project if they are very new to the BIM and how to utilize the models and so on.
What's your favorite part about like infrastructure BIM, or your favorite system, or like if you had to work with one part in BIM in infrastructure for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I would definitely choose surveyor's
job.
Like I think it feels amazing that you go into the real world and you can make log points from there, and then you have the virtual version of the real world. I think it's just outstanding, and with the modern GNS receivers, and now there's even handheld surveying equipment. It feels like it's so easy and well effortless, because you can just walk and okay, point here, point here, point here.
Don't tell that to any surveyor that it's effortless, but yeah, please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, if we are not taking total stations. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually last project I had, I wanted to explore more about the surveying things, and I went to the site and asked about the surveyor who was outsourced that hey, can I join you when you go with the total stations?
Oh, cool.
So I was with that small lens targeting the trees with the plus signs and getting the coordinates about how much it goes, and it was just the setting up the accuracy was just like so much effort to know which panel and buttons and menus and wherever you go. Then with the DNS, it's just like power on, plug point. So it was like, I understand that we need total stations, but someone should redesign the user interface in those machines.
Yeah, you definitely need like an engineer to work with those. But yeah, that's nice to hear. Maybe you should do a couple of years of surveying studies and you could become a head surveyor at some point. Because I know that at the moment in Finland especially, and I think that's a global problem right now, that there's not enough surveyors for all the sites, and because the digitalization and everything's evolving so fast, and somebody also needs to be working on the site, so people are not, it's really hard to keep up with the development and all the requirements that come out. So
yeah, and I think it's like when I first started as BIM coordinator, I think it was such a mind-numbing realization that how much surveyor works understanding you need to understand all little details of making it work, because it's the foremen and the excavator drivers and even the footmen are utilizing BIM, but to set it up so that they can benefit from it, you need a lot of background knowledge about surveying and how everything works. And I think that was a bit of a surprise, came on my back on this is a little bit.
But it's fun how if I had to choose something that I would work with the rest of my life would probably be machine control or machine guidance. I find it really, really interesting. But even though it's only a one small part of BIM in infrastructure, it's still a vast thing that withholds so many different things to understand and to know about. So I've been working here mainly trying to work with machine control and being a machine control expert in our company. But there's so many different systems that have their own ideas and how they work. And then there's also different cloud services. And I think every day I'm using so many different softwares and services daily, and it's taking forever to learn, but it's still really enjoyable. But kind of hoping that maybe after 10 years it's a little bit easier.
Have you yet done any pipe work modeling for the different machine kind of systems?
No.
You enjoy it?
Yeah. You get to work at the actual project, so I'm kind of trying to look at the big picture. So yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a world. By the way, what in the machine guidance systems and the machine guidance experts, is it more of the modeling part, or more of excavator and the system maintenance and understanding that function? Because those are also You can take years and years to be a good modeler for machine guidance systems, but then the systems itself, like Catherine Pool, Novatron, it's also like you need to know so much little things about each system and how it functions and what kind of data you can input it and what you can get out. So it's like a bit of a both or one of those.
I would think in the end user part, because we see the potential in machine control at the moment, and we want to use more and more of machine control. But there is still somewhat of a gap because in traditional just excavating or like having the surveyor on site, there is still a lot to learn for different parties, and so it takes time. But I would say like the design or the excavating models, there are differences, yes, that you need to take into notice, but from a surveying point of view. But I don't know, from the excavator pilot, would it be as easy for them to, like, first you learn Leica system and then you learn Novatron system. So I think at the end user point, that's where we need to emphasize them.
Yeah, that's true. Like, well, at least on my project, it's always like, I think now and well forever that some systems have much more well equipped for modeling and data gathering, and some you need to piece all the models to the small chunks or different types or different codings, and it's always a bit of a hassle.
Yeah, but hopefully getting more towards there's a one code system for everybody that everybody needs to use, because now there are so many different, of course there are different owners. For example, we have a project at the airport and there are very airport specific stuff in their coding system. But eventually, like, to save time, to save money, to save everybody's nerves, we need to go more towards a unified system.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, but that's something that we all need to work on and all need to push towards for. And I think like in Finland with Building Smart Finland and all the experts there, they're like making a really big effort in pushing that forward globally and in Finland.
By the way, out of curiosity, when you have come from the design and data management perspective, what would you say for civil engineers that like if they are interested on BIM and they have seen those visualization models and they have been like in the 3D, they have been watched them, like what are the most crucial things in your mind that you need to learn or become good with understanding to start like adapting BIM in your own projects?
Well, if we want to all play together in the same team, I think it would be important if we want to utilize the design models in construction, then of course like maybe the owners would come more be more okay with the fact that we could use models also as the defining designs for construction. But also then I heard a really good story from somewhere that it has been also utilized the machine control simulators for the designers. So yeah, when they take their models and turn it into one of those triangulated models for the excavators, and then they could see like how does this work, and can you take this there, or do you want to save the joint time of everybody, or do you want to make somebody, the surveyor of the site, do the work that you've already done, do it again, then but it's a common discussion, and we should more play together in the same team.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes BIM coordinators work so difficult.
Thank you for listening to the Infrastructure Pioneer Podcast. Infrastructure construction from the perspective of BIM specialists and on-site engineers. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you next time.